Hey everyone, welcome to America Current Affairs. Okay, we have to talk about Minnesota. Things are getting incredibly intense. What started out as protests has just exploded into a full-blown crisis. We're talking thousands of federal agents on the streets, violent clashes, and now a direct threat from the president to send in the US military. It's a huge deal.
So this right here, this is the social media post that just poured gasoline on the fire. On January 15th, President Trump drops this message, and he threatens to use something called the Insurrection Act. Now, what does that even mean? Well, in simple terms, he's threatening to deploy the United States military on American soil to, in his words, end the travesty. Wow. A single post like this took a situation that was already on a knife's edge and just lit the fuse.
So, you've got to be asking yourself, right? What on earth could be happening in an American city that would make a president even think about using the military against his own citizens? It's a wild thought. To get our heads around it, we really need to rewind and see how things got so out of control, so fast.
All right, so let's get into it. This whole mess didn't just pop up overnight. Not at all. It's really been like a pressure cooker with a whole series of events over the last couple of weeks just building and building, pushing this community right to the brink.
Okay, so it all really kicked off on January 7th. An ICE agent shoots and kills a US citizen, a woman named Renee Good. And as you can imagine, that shooting immediately sparked protests. Now, the federal government's response? It wasn't to calm things down. No, it was to flood the Twin Cities with federal agents. And then, get this, just a week later, it happens again. Another ICE agent shoots a Venezuelan migrant. At that point, the city just hit a boiling point.
And the sheer scale of this federal deployment it's just staggering. We're talking about roughly 3,000 federal agents on the ground. Now let's put that into perspective for a second. The entire Minneapolis Police Department, they have fewer than 600 officers. So this isn't just sending in a little backup, this is a massive federal presence. So massive, in fact, that the state's own governor has called it an occupation. That's a powerful word. Now for that second shooting, the one with the Venezuelan migrant, things get really murky. Because we have two completely, and I mean completely different stories about what went down. On one hand, you've got the official government account from Homeland Security. They say the guy fled, crashed his car, resisted arrest, and then other people attacked an officer with a snow shovel, forcing the officer to fire a defensive shot. Okay, that's one version. But then you've got witnesses on the scene who tell a totally different story. They say ICE agents chased this man all the way to his own home and shot him right there, in front of his family. It's hard to imagine two more conflicting accounts of the same event.
So with all this anger and confusion just simmering, it's probably no surprise that the protests started to turn more violent. We've seen reports of federal agents using chemical agents on the crowds. And then, things escalated even more when vandals actually broke into FBI vehicles, stealing equipment. Now, the FBI is taking this incredibly seriously. They're offering a massive $100,000 reward for any information. They've already arrested one suspect who they say has gang ties for stealing things like body armor and weapons. Okay, so all of that brings us right back to the president's threat and that very specific law he mentioned, the Insurrection Act. So what is this thing? Well, you can think of it like a president's super emergency button. It's this constitutional power that lets a president do something that's usually a huge no-no. Use the American military for law enforcement, right here at home.
And believe it or not, this is not some new law they just cooked up. This thing has been on the books since, get this, 1807, for over 200 years. And what it does, basically, is give the president the green light to send in the troops when there's a total breakdown of law and order. A situation that local police and even the National Guard just can't get a handle on.
But, and this is important, a president can't just hit this button whenever they want. There are rules. There are basically three ways it can happen. First, the governor of a state can actually ask for the military's help. Okay, that's one. Second, the president can decide to do it on their own if they feel that federal laws are being broken and can't be enforced any other way. And the third reason, and this one has been huge throughout history, is to protect people's civil rights if a state is either unable or unwilling to do it. And let me tell you, this isn't just some dusty old law sitting in a book that nobody ever touches. No way. The Insurrection Act has actually been used during some of the most famous and frankly most difficult moments in all of American history. We are talking about some incredibly high-stakes situations here. President Lincoln, he used it as one of his legal justifications to fight the Civil War. Fast forward to 1957. President Eisenhower sent the 101st Airborne into Little Rock, Arkansas to make sure 9 black students could safely go to school. Then, in 1965, President Johnson used it to protect the voting rights marchers in Selma. And more recently, President George H.W. Bush sent troops into Los Angeles during the 1992 riots. So yeah, this law has a very, very serious and powerful history. So, with all that history in the back of our minds, where does that leave Minnesota right now, today? Well, it's basically a full-blown standoff. You have the state government on one side and the federal government on the other, and they are staring each other down. From the federal government's point of view, this is a total breakdown of law and order, period. The Homeland Security Secretary, Kristi Noem, didn't mince words. She called what happened in that second shooting an attempted murder of federal law enforcement, and she publicly told the mayor and the governor they have to get their city under control.
But then you flip over to the other side, and Minnesota's governor, Tim Walz, sees things completely differently. He's out there making a direct appeal to the president, saying, let's turn the temperature down. He's calling this whole federal surge a campaign of retribution. I mean, you just can't get two more opposite ways of looking at the exact same situation. And listen, this fight isn't just a war of words on TV. It's happening for real on a bunch of different fronts. First, in the courtroom, the state of Minnesota itself is suing the Trump administration to try and force these federal agents to leave. The ACLU is also suing, saying people's constitutional rights are being violated. And then there's this, which is just stunning. Inside the Justice Department, at least 6 federal prosecutors in Minnesota have actually quit their jobs, reportedly in protest over how this whole thing is being handled. That's a big deal.
And so, it all boils down to this one single massive question. In a country that feels so divided right now, when you have state government and the federal government in a direct standoff like this, who gets to draw that line? Who decides when a protest crosses over and becomes an insurrection? And who decides when it's okay to call in the military? That's the question at the very, very heart of this crisis. And frankly, there are no easy answers.
Hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive and you want to make sense of more stories like this, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button for America Current Affairs. We're always breaking down the big, complicated stories that really matter. Thanks so much for watching.